You're standing in a gallery, the lights dimmed. You see Van Gogh's Starry Night. Its swirls of blues and yellows, embodying the ethereal beauty of the night sky, almost vibrating right in front of you. Across the room, a Jackson Pollock piece catches your eye. The intricate web of colors and textures formed by paint dripped and flung across the canvas pulls you in. Both these masterpieces, distinct as they are, represent the diverse and boundless scope of the modern art movement. Some criticize it, dismissing it as elitist or overly abstract. They argue that it lacks the technical skills of the old masters. And it's not rare for some to think, I could have done that. But it's much more than that. People often struggle with modern art because it can at times be challenging to understand it, which can be frustrating. But merely dismissing it as an inferior form of expression undermines its significant contributions. The modern art movement spanned from the 1860s to the 1970s, a period marked by the transformative effects of the Industrial Revolution and 2 world wars. Just like the world was spinning on its axis a little faster, the wheel of modern art was spinning along with it, producing an array of different artistic styles in quick succession. With photography becoming more popular, artists faced a dilemma. If a camera could mirror reality, where did they stand? This led them to instead not create reality but question it. Previously, art was largely governed by the rigid norms of academic institutions and the preferences of a select group of wealthy patrons. They dictated what was considered good art, favoring historical or mythological themes and meticulous techniques. Modern art emerged as the artist's rebellion against these restrictions. This movement democratized the artistic landscape, broadening its appeal beyond the elites and ushering in an era of innovation. Now, it might be confusing to find a common thread within all of these art movements. But if you look closely, you'll see a few characteristics coming up time and time again. 1. Rejection of traditional artistic conventions. 2. Exploration of new materials and techniques. And 3. An emphasis on abstraction. Today, we will be exploring the progression of modern art by looking at the masterpieces that best illustrate these characteristics. Before we go any further, I want to thank this video's sponsor, Smartest. Innovation and individuality are at the heart of modern art history, and at the heart of Smartest. Designed by artists, Smartest is an art visualization app that lets you instantly showcase any artwork in any context. With hundreds of exclusive interiors, advanced smart tools, and unlimited customizations, Smartest makes marketing your own art easier, so selling it can be too. You can download Smartest for free in the App Store. Historians frequently debate the precise origins of modern art. Edouard Manet's The Luncheon on the Grass and Paul Cezanne's The Large Bathers stand out in these discussions. As art historian H. Harvard Arneson observed, each of these dates has significance for the development of modern art, but none categorically marks a completely new beginning. A gradual metamorphosis took place in the course of 100 years. Manet's The Luncheon on the Grass, regardless of whether it's considered the starting point, indisputably stands as a cornerstone of modern art. Painted in 1863, this masterpiece presents a vivid scene: 2 fully dressed men in the company of a starkly nude woman, casually picnicking on a sunlit glade, a curious play of light and shadows. In an oddly proportioned background, a woman in a sheer dress bathes in a pond. The man on the right is wearing an indoor tassel hat, adding to the scene's unconventionality. Breaking from the traditional ideals at the time, Manet's choice to paint ordinary Parisians instead of significant figures or royalty challenged societal norms and redefined art's scope. The subject that catches our eyes first is the woman at the center. Her ambiguous gaze draws us in. Its intent is unclear, which further enhances the painting's allure. Is she challenging or welcoming us, engaging or looking past us entirely? Manet's uniquely bold brushwork and portrayal of realism were groundbreaking, but contrasted sharply with the art standards of the time, which resulted in this painting's rejection by the Paris Salon in 1863. Ironically, this only amplified its influence, setting the stage for the modern art movements that followed. It was instead exhibited at Salon des Refusés, an alternative exhibition for avant-garde artists whose works were deemed too unconventional. Paul Cézanne's The Large Bathers, crafted over nearly a decade and left unfinished at his death, marks a decisive shift towards modern art. This masterpiece depicts a group of women immersed in nature, framed by trees that evoke the grandeur of a cathedral. His innovative treatment of form is evident here, as he reduces his subjects into geometric shapes and arranges them in triangular patterns that mirror the layout of the trees. The scene's simplicity foreshadows the geometric abstraction of Cubism, yet the crowding of figures subtly hints at the intricate arrangements often found in Renaissance paintings. Unlike those works, however, where the prominent figure or object takes center stage within the pyramid to show their significance, the center is empty. Cezanne challenges this convention. The central space within the triangular arrangement is less emphasized and almost empty, creating a sense of balance and calm, where nothing and no one is more important than the other. While the central space brings us calm, he pulls our attention to the sides where the figures, grouped into smaller pyramids, hold a distinct compactness and prominence. This fresh approach to the traditional pyramid composition demonstrates Cezanne's individuality, but also pioneers a fresh, groundbreaking method of visual storytelling in art. The painting's overall texture speaks of its unfinished status, the women's bodies and faces merely outlined, giving an impression of the artist's pure, unfiltered artistic vision. This piece is a testimony of Cezanne's proclamation. I want to make of Impressionism something solid and lasting, like the art in museums. And indeed he did. Looking back, we can see that his approach in this piece pushed Impressionism towards a new, enduring direction. As Impressionism slowly faded, emerged Post-Impressionism, a fresh wave of artists, including Vincent van Gogh, Henri Rousseau, and Henri de Toulouse-Lautrec, joined Cezanne in this art movement and began using bolder forms and two-dimensional perspectives. Among the most recognizable artworks of this period, and in the course of art history, is Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night. Painted in 1889, during Van Gogh's stay at the Saint-Rémy Asylum, the Starry Night goes beyond the traditional confines of landscape art. Instead of focusing on the material world, Van Gogh devotes the canvas to a vibrantly pulsating night sky. He has flung open a window to his soul, letting us in on a deeply personal nocturnal dream. The undulating waves of the night sky, punctuated by luminous stars and a glowing crescent moon. They aren't just celestial elements. They're the very heartbeat of an artist grappling with existence, longing, and the eternal unknown. The cypress trees that spiral upwards, bridging the earth and the heavens, become a poignant metaphor for life's fleeting nature and our innate yearning to connect with something beyond this life. Using the impasto technique, where paint is thickly applied to the canvas, Van Gogh creates a textured sky, alive with emotion, magnetically drawing us into its swirling embrace. The Starry Night isn't just a painting. It's a monumental step in modern art's evolution, bringing forth the deep emotional resonance that would characterize following art movements. Next came Fauvism, led by Henri Matisse. The Fauves, deeply inspired by nature and the styles of post-impressionist and neo-impressionist masters, created a visual language dominated by vibrant color planes and sensual forms. An exemplary illustration of Fauvist principles is found in Matisse's The Joy of Life. This scene brims with intense and non-naturalistic hues, saturated with vivid oranges, pinks, and blues that collectively construct an almost dreamlike landscape. This colossal painting, measuring at 6 by 8 feet, captures the essence of an idyllic world, a realm where the colors of nature fuse and dance with the raw energy of humanity. Central to this scene of vibrant life are the nude subjects, both serenely at rest and joyously in motion. Their presence is a symbol of the human spirit's connection to the very pulse of existence, embodying the uninhibited celebration of life's vitality. Matisse's bold palette moves beyond representation and instead weaves together a kaleidoscope of emotions and sentiments. Each brushstroke comes together to create a scene of unadulterated joy and exuberance. The arabesque lines, weaving around the figures and the entirety of the composition, guide our gaze. This work has certain elements of Paul Cézanne's iconic bathing scenes, but embodies Fauvism's bold projection of tradition in favor of a more liberated artistic vision. Although initially controversial, the painting's joyful vitality and daring colors eventually earned it recognition as a pivotal masterpiece in modern art history. Exhibited at the Salon des Indépendants in 1906, it unsurprisingly caused outrage due to its bold colors and spatial distortions. This realm, where familiar forms dissolve into fragmented geometric patterns, is Cubism, a world conceived by the minds of Pablo Picasso and Georges Braque. A great example of Cubism is Picasso's Les Demoiselles d'Avignon. We can see 5 nude female forms, their gazes meeting ours, as their bodies disintegrate into an intricate maze of geometric forms. The radical manipulations of form here, as three-dimensional entities crumble into flattened geometric shapes, signifies an important transformation in artistic representation. The figures' faces tell us Picasso's inspiration here, resembling Iberian sculptures and African masks. To further confound the viewer, a slice of melon in the foreground balances precariously on the edge of a seemingly upturned tabletop, a piece of still life painted with the same disruptive approach to form and space. After months of revisions, Picasso chose to represent this monumental artwork at his Paris studio, an unveiling that, again to no one's surprise, sparked contemplation and debate. He shook the art world with this paradigm shift, and just a few years later, Georges Braque created another iconic piece that took this movement even further: Bottle and Fishes. A still life, but not as you know it. Braque presents a composition of overlapping planes and fragmented objects. The titular bottle and fishes, barely discernible amidst the jumble of intersecting lines and muted colors. As a viewer, we're invited to a unique interactive experience, a journey to decipher the obscured reality beneath the abstract facade. His choice of commonplace domestic subject matter and the restrained earth tones reflect a departure from his earlier Fauvist paintings. Together, these two pieces ignited the fire of Cubism. Their approach to depictions of form and perspective opened up new dimensions of artistic expression. They questioned the unquestionable, challenging the viewer to see the world not as it appears, but as it could be perceived from multiple simultaneous viewpoints. This daring exploration not only redefined the boundaries of art, but also revolutionized the way we perceive and engage with the world around us. The Dada movement began in the whirlwind of World War I, amidst the echoes of cannon fire and social unrest. An artistic rebellion took form, characterized by a satirical and nonsensical nature. Artists like Marcel Duchamp challenged the very concept of what constitutes as art with pieces like Fountain.
I believe that art is the only form of activity in which man shows himself to be a true individual.
He he turned a urinal into an artwork, raising eyebrows and sparking discussions about what should be valued as art. He coined the term ready-made to describe everyday factory-made objects that were repurposed as art. This concept was an audacious challenge to the conventional wisdom that art must be a crafted product of the artist's skill and talent. The uproar caused by Fountain began a philosophical and conceptual revolution whose influence went beyond data and into surrealism and conceptual art. This piece isn't just what we see at face value. It's not just a urinal, it's a provocative testament to the power of context and the strength that lies in redefining the parameters of art. By prompting us to question what art can be, Duchamp's Fountain opened up a new world of artistic freedom and began a discussion that still reverberates in the art world today. Now, when it comes to the abstract part of modern art, you've likely heard the name Wassily Kandinsky, who is considered to be a pioneer. Yet before him, Swedish artist Hilma of Klint painted abstraction's earliest strokes. Though her genius was overlooked, likely due to her gender, she laid the foundation for what we consider abstraction today. Her works possess an otherworldly quality, influenced by her spiritualism and fascination with the mysteries of the unknown. This series, Group 4, The 10 Largest, perfectly reflects this spiritual journey. She intended for the paintings to be hung together in a spiral temple, creating what she described as a beautiful wall covering. They represent the stages of life, a celestial journey, unfolding from the innocence of childhood, the excitement of youth, quiet maturity, and the wisdom-touched shades of old age. One glimpse, and we are transported into an effervescent cosmos of dynamic hues and undulating patterns. A maze of curves, spiraling against the canvas. There's a sort of dance between organic motifs and abstract shapes, a juxtaposition of familiar and the unknown, bound together in an artistic symphony. The ethereal quality here was no accident. This series was the result of instructions Hilma had received during a séance. Her notes said, 10 paradisiacally beautiful paintings were to be executed. The paintings were to be in colors that would be educational, and they would reveal my feelings to me in an economical way. It was the meaning of the leaders to give the world a glimpse of the system of the 4 parts in the life of a man. Each composition only took 4 days to paint, and because of their size, the works were most likely created on her studio floor, a radical departure from the easel painting conventions of the day. But art, like many great discoveries, sometimes remains buried, waiting for its time in the sun. Hilma's groundbreaking pieces remained hidden for decades. She believed, maybe rightfully so, that her time was not yet, that the world wasn't prepared for the journey she was offering, so much so that she even instructed for her pieces not to be shown until 20 years after her death. Her recent celebration, however, sparked a reassessment of art history and challenged the established timelines of abstraction and modernism. Wassily Kandinsky's name often takes center stage in discussions of abstract art. Kandinsky, with his profound belief in the emotional power of colors and forms, compared painting to the notes and harmonies in a symphony. He has contributed numerous influential pieces to the world, but few stand as pivotal as this work from 1910, Untitled, First Abstract Watercolor. Every element plays its part, intersecting and influencing its neighbors, crafting a visual opus that plays with our senses. Long considered the first abstract artwork in the entire history of painting, which we now know to be untrue, this piece is not bound to reality's parameters. The watercolor patches here touch against the assertiveness of black lines drawn with pen and ink, showcasing Kandinsky's exquisite ability to play with mediums and techniques. In its vibrancy and autonomy of form and color, this piece resonates with the very soul of abstract art, echoing the transcendental vision of Kandinsky and the overarching ideals of the modern art movement. Kandinsky once famously proclaimed, "The more abstract is form, the more clear and direct its appeal." And that's what he's showing us here. He has created a piece that appeals to the viewers not through the representation of physical reality, but through what he believes is the purest form of art. Abstract art continued its transformative journey with Kazimir Malevich's Black Square as a significant chapter. At first glance, it might seem oversimplified, even rudimentary. You might think, I could have definitely done that. But this black square, with its rough, unpolished edges, isn't just a deviation from what was understood as traditional art. It's a bold declaration. He expressed his intention behind this piece in his 1927 manifesto, The Non-Objective World, saying, "In the year 1913, trying desperately to free art from the dead weight of the real world, I took refuge in the form of the square." Labeling his new abstract approach as suprematism, which was a style that valued the supremacy of colors and shapes in paintings, he wanted viewers to focus on a piece of art at its purest form, without landscapes, scenes, or subjects to distract the viewer. Exhibited during World War I, its inception coincided with a time of great sociopolitical change in the artist's homeland of Russia. The instability that had begun with the 1905 revolution eventually led to the Bolshevik uprising and the October Revolution of 1917. This period signaled the fading of the Russian Empire and the rise of the Soviet Union. This context lends depth to Malevich's Black Square. Its radical departure from the artistic conventions of the time mirrors the nation's own dramatic shifts. After his passing in 1935, this piece vanished from the public eye, overshadowed by Stalin's state-endorsed social realism that had become the official art of Soviet Russia. It wasn't until the 1980s that this piece resurfaced, yet despite its absence, it retained its mystery, captivating and challenging artists to this day even if they couldn't see it. Its minimal design invites interpretation, and rather than perceiving its simplicity as a barrier, consider instead that there are no wrong answers, no boundaries to stay within, no lessons you've missed in enjoying it. Is it the infinite black of the night sky, or just paint on a white canvas? It could be both, or neither, or anything else your mind sees when you're looking at the painting. That is what Malevich accomplished. This ambiguity that challenged the idea that art should represent something from reality. Founded in 1917, the Duchamp art movement, led by Piet Mondrian and Theo van Doesburg, celebrated geometric abstraction and a distilled sense of simplicity through primary colors and linear forms. Mondrian was very specific when it came to his canvas. He always mixed his own colors and never used rulers. He placed thick black lines to divide the canvas into rectangles and filled some with primary hues, often leaving the center one white. These works would later be known across the world as masterpieces of abstraction. A perfect example of this is his composition C, No.III, with red, yellow, and blue. The painting is structured around a bold black grid that intersects horizontally and vertically. Within this grid are rectangles of varying sizes. Some remain stark white, while others are filled with vibrant red, a deep blue, and a bright yellow. The black lines are consistent in width and provide a noticeable contrast to both the white and the colored spaces. You might notice that this too is simple, as is common in abstract pieces. But look a bit closer and try to suspend your preconceived notions of art. It's inviting, isn't it? As if we can step into it, walk on its lines, and navigate its rhythms to experience the beauty that lies in its balance and harmony. Piet Mondrian's approach to abstraction not only redefined his personal style, but also reshaped how art could be integrated into and reflected in everyday life. His impact wasn't limited to paintings, it extended into areas of architecture and fashion. In discussing abstract art within the broader scope of the modern art movement, referencing Mondrian provides a clear and encompassing perspective on the movement's transformation and significance. Georgia O'Keeffe made groundbreaking contributions to American art during the early 20th century. Known for her paintings of flowers and landscapes, she depicted these common artistic subjects through her own unique abstract lens. In fact, she was referred to as the mother of American modernism. Her art reflects the diverse landscapes of her homes, from Wisconsin to New York to New Mexico. In her paintings, she conveys her deep affection for each of these places through simplified forms and vivid colors. One of her masterpieces that best showcases the concepts of modern art is Black Iris. In this painting, O'Keeffe magnifies a single iris flower to an enlarged scale, filling the canvas with the intricate details of the flower's structure. The composition of the painting places the iris at the center, with the background kept simple. Although she uses a variety of colors here, her focus is on the darker shades, the blacks, the purples, and the maroons. The way she has so clearly depicted this rather dark subject makes it feel like there's a light source just outside of the canvas. By enlarging the flower to a monumental scale, O'Keeffe takes a familiar subject, transforms it into an abstract form, and presents it in a new and innovative light, inviting viewers to engage with its shapes and lines in a way we might not have considered before. Jackson Pollock, an abstract expressionist, was an artist who pushed abstraction to its furthest extreme. There are no shapes or suggestions in his work, just lines, dripped and flung across the canvas. His pieces challenge traditional spectatorship, asserting that art wasn't just looking at the artwork, but also the process of creation. Unlike artists before him who veiled their techniques, Pollock put his at the forefront. Using non-traditional tools, he poured and splattered paint onto vast unprimed canvases placed directly on the floor to create intricate patterns and puddles of paint. We can see that here, in Autumn Rhythm. This piece, measuring at 17 by 8 feet, is a swirling composition. The painting's expansive scale envelops us in its environment, providing a direct and immersive experience of the artist's creative energy and self-discovery. Its dynamic and energetic composition captures the spontaneity and the physical essence of Pollock's process. There's no central focus in this entire piece, which means that every bit of surface that surrounds us holds equal significance. What draws one to this piece is not necessarily its historical or contextual implications, but the visceral feelings it evokes. This is Pollock's essence, art that resonates beyond cognition, touching the very core of our emotions.
The thing that interests me is that today painters do not have to go to a subject matter outside of themselves. Most modern painters work from a different source. They work from within.
As we stand on the precipice of the 21st century, it is clear that the legacy of modern art is far from fading. It has reshaped artistic expression, continuously reinventing itself and reflecting societal shifts. The heart and soul of this movement lies in its inherent subjectivity, and it's important to remember that the true value of art doesn't hinge on its universal understanding. To me, it resembles classical music. We don't need words or lyrics to appreciate it. The only thing that matters is our willingness to sit and take it in, feeling whatever that comes up, positive, negative, or nothing. There are no wrong answers. Kurt Vonnegut said it best in his 1973 novel, Breakfast of Champions. The The painting did not exist until I made it. I would love for your children to find pleasantly and playfully what it took me many angry years to find. Thank you so much for watching. These videos take a lot of time, so your support is greatly appreciated.